The trading post on Zerion 7 buzzed with nervous energy as Captain Zethkar of the Galactic Wildlife Preservation Corps paced before the assembled crowd. His four arms gestured frantically, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking with agitation. "The situation is unprecedented," he announced, his translator struggling with the urgency in his voice. "3 void leviathans have broken containment. These are apex predators from the Andromeda spiral. Creatures so dangerous that even our most advanced pacification technology barely keeps them sedated." The mixed crowd of traders, diplomats, and travelers from dozens of species murmured anxiously. Void leviathans were legendary terrors, each one the size of a small starship, with crystalline fangs that could pierce quantum armor and telepathic abilities that could drive lesser minds to madness. "How did they escape?" called out Ambassador Braxy, her tentacles coiling nervously around her ceremonial staff. "System failure during a routine transfer," Zethkar replied grimly. "They're heading toward the civilian sectors. We've evacuated most of the station, but—" He paused, mandibles clicking. "There's a problem." The captain's aide, a nervous Theta-class android, projected a holographic display showing the station's layout. 3 massive red dots moved through the corridors like digital predators, while a small blue dot remained stationary in Section C7. "A human child," Zethkar continued, 8 years old. "The evacuation shuttles departed before we could reach her location. She's trapped in the education wing and the Leviathans are converging on her position." A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Every species present knew the stories of human children, their unusual fearlessness, their tendency to form bonds with dangerous creatures, their unpredictable nature that had both fascinated and terrified the galaxy since humanity's recent addition to the Galactic Council. "Surely your security forces can handle this," suggested Trade Minister Cleon, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. Zethkar's expression darkened. "We've lost contact with 3 security teams. The Leviathan's psychic emanations are too strong. Anyone who gets within 50 meters either flees in terror or becomes catatonic." He looked around the room desperately. "We need volunteers for a rescue mission, but I won't lie, it's likely a suicide run." The crowd fell silent. Even the bravest warriors among them knew their limitations against creatures that could break minds with a thought. "I'll go." The voice was small but clear. Every head turned toward the back of the room where a tall, lean human woman stood. Dr. Sarah Chen, the station's xenobiologist, stepped forward with quiet determination. "Dr. Chen," Zethkar began, "you don't understand." "That's my daughter in there," Sarah interrupted, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly. "Emma Chen Rodriguez. And if you think I'm going to stand here while she's in danger, you clearly haven't studied human psychology very well." Before anyone could stop her, Sarah was already moving toward the exit. Several security officers moved to intercept her, but Zethkar raised a hand to stop them. He had seen enough of human behavior to know that preventing a parent from protecting their child was not only futile but potentially dangerous. Meanwhile, in Section C7, 8-year-old Emma sat cross-legged on the floor of her classroom, completely unaware that she was supposed to be terrified. The first void Leviathan had arrived, 10 minutes ago, its massive serpentine form coiling through the doorway like liquid shadow. Its 3 heads, each the size of a hovercar, regarded her with eyes that swirled with cosmic darkness. The creature's psychic roar should have sent her screaming. Instead, Emma tilted her head and studied the magnificent beast with the fearless curiosity that had gotten her in trouble countless times before. "You're scared," she said matter-of-factly. The Leviathan's middle head pulled back slightly, confusion rippling through its alien thoughts. Fear was not an emotion it was accustomed to experiencing, much less having identified by a small bipedal creature. Emma stood up and took a step closer. "You're far from home, aren't you? Mom says that when we're scared and far from home, sometimes we get angry and lash out." The second Leviathan arrived, sliding through the opposite entrance with predatory grace. Then the third, until Emma was surrounded by enough concentrated lethality to level a city block. Their combined psychic presence pressed against her mind, like a crushing weight, yet she remained standing. brown eyes bright with sympathy rather than fear. "It's okay," she whispered, reaching out with one small hand toward the nearest crystalline fang. "I get scared too sometimes." The Leviathans exchanged confused telepathic communications. This creature's mind was unlike anything they had encountered, not the ordered thoughts of advanced civilizations or the simple instincts of prey animals. This was something chaotic yet pure, complex yet innocent. Her fear existed, but it was overwhelmed by something else, genuine compassion for their distress. Emma began to hum, a simple lullaby her mother had sung to her countless times. The melody seemed to resonate through the Leviathan's crystalline structure, vibrating at frequencies that touched something deep in their ancient consciousness. One by one, their aggressive postures relaxed. When Sarah finally reached the classroom, having somehow walked through 50 meters of psychic terror field without hesitation, she found her daughter sitting peacefully among 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. The Leviathans had coiled their massive forms around the room like living walls, their heads resting on the floor as Emma continued her soft humming. "Emma?" Sarah called softly. "Hi, Mom," Emma replied without looking up, still gently stroking the nearest Leviathan's snout. "I think they just needed someone to listen to them. They're not mean. They're just lost and scared." As if responding to her words, the 3 creatures began to emit a low, harmonious resonance, a sound that xenobiologists later identified as the void Leviathan equivalent of purring. The psychic pressure that had terrorized the station's security forces had transformed into something else entirely: contentment. Captain Zethkar arrived with his team to find the most dangerous creatures in known space, following an 8-year-old human girl through the corridors like devoted pets, heading peacefully back to their containment area. Emma chattered to them, constantly, telling them stories about Earth and promising to ask her mom if they could have better accommodations. Later, as reports of the incident spread throughout the galaxy, xenopsychologists would spend years trying to understand what had happened. They would write papers about human empathy, about the unique neural patterns that allowed humans to form connections across species barriers, about the fearless innocence of human children that seemed to transcend even telepathic terror. But Emma, busy drawing pictures of her new friends to send to her grandmother on Earth, would have summed it up much more simply. Sometimes when someone's being mean, they just need a friend. The galaxy was still learning what that meant when it came to humans. Emma had just given them another lesson. And in the depths of space, word spread among the most dangerous creatures in the cosmos. The small human cubs were not to be feared. They were to be protected.